Hi, I'm Anders Ленгландс. I'm a visual effects supervisor.
And I'm Sимеон Данкомб. I'm the animation supervisor for Weta Digital. We started pulling back from a lot of the original footage that was in prior to the theatrical version. So that was sometimes some storyboards, sometimes some just title cards, that sort of thing. So it depended on the sequence, but...
Yeah, I mean, the main thing, obviously the main change between the theatrical cut and the Snyder cut is that now in that battle sequence is now Darkseid fighting against the Defenders of the Earth rather than Steppenwolf, who it was in the 2017 version. Of course, when we're talking about the theatrical cut versus the Snyder cut, like the Snyder cut actually represents what the movie was originally intended to be. Zack first started out on Justice League with what everything was going a certain way. He had a certain vision and plan for it. That was changed like later on due to circumstances changing on the production side. So we were essentially going back to his original version with the Snyder cut. And so actually a lot of stuff was kind of planned out a little bit beforehand. So we're really restoring the original vision for it rather than sort of just having to create something new. I mean, this is really setting up. This is the first time we see Darkseid in the film and in the DC universe. So this is really setting him up as this ultimate force to be reckoned with, which is something that we didn't get in the theatrical version in the first place. So this is his moment. So we see his power, we see his strength. It's the combined forces of the Greek gods, the Amazons, the Atlanteans, and the Green Lantern to force him back. Not even kill him, but just force him back. And so that really sets up him as the ultimate big bad character, and that's really, I think, what the sequence is about, is setting up that idea, setting up the idea of the anti-life equation, and so we come to understand the larger forces at work in this universe rather than just the characters that we're dealing with immediately in the movie otherwise.
He existed in our very first version for the theatrical version, then we had to swap him into Steppenwolf later in the process of the theatrical version. So we could return to some of that original work, which was good. And then when it came to certain moments through that sequence, particularly for the Green Lantern fight, we could take that idea a little bit further, particularly because the rating for the film had changed as well. So now we're kind of living in an R-rated world, so we could take the violence of that death a little bit further as well. And so we decided to do a new performance on that moment as well, which was a fun beat to do, where we could take his hand off and have that land in the foreground with the blood and all that sort of stuff and make it feel a bit more violent, and which sort of leads into the Defenders of the Earth. It gives them sort of some motivation to fight back and take on and push Darkseid back into his ship and send him back to Apocalypse. When the ring finally comes off the finger and floats up into the sky in the theatrical version, it just sort of flies over Steppenwolf's shoulder and he glances at it and sort of forgets about it. But in the Darkseid version, the Snyder cut, Anders thought it might be interesting, like why wouldn't Darkseid actually reach out to grab the ring? And so it wasn't because Artemis has shot an arrow at him that he doesn't get the ring. And it sort of raises the stakes there a little bit further, I think, and it was a great moment that DJ and Zack were happy to include.
So Ares is obviously played by Дэвид Телвис when he's standing around and a stunt performer doing his big actions. So we had a couple of plates that were live action footage that we're working with that we have to tie into, but the shots around it are completely digital, so we're kind of free to do what we want. So we just go in and again just make it as violent as we could. So he really, we just animated to slam really deep into his shoulder, which actually the scar there is carried through to the end of the movie, although you can't really see it very clearly. But if you look closely, I think you can still see a little piece of it on his shoulder. And then there's a huge amount of blood pouring out of out of his shoulder as Ares kicks him away, which is a lot of fun to do. But that's all driven really by animation and the performance that you do with the stunt guys.
And the awesome ability to have an R rating and just throw whatever you want at the screen. But we know Darkseid needs to be, he's passed out at the end of this scene, so you want that damage to be pretty destructive. So we just threw that axe in there a bit deeper and threw out a bit more blood, but there wasn't a huge change, just the violence of it. I think we just wanted to dial up a notch. My first question was, who was as this project was about to be greenlit, I just was curious about who was involved in the visual effects side, and knowing that Zack's VFX guy DJ was involved, I immediately wanted to sign up. And you knew that there was going to be a lot of enthusiasm for this project from that perspective. You knew Zack was going to be excited to make this for sure. You knew DJ was going to be excited, and so that energy kind of rubs off on us and all the artists We know we're going to be seeing a lot of those shots again that were previously omitted and which we put a lot of love into. So you see those shots brought back for the Snyder cut. Those artists are excited about that fact, to revisit that work and for the world to finally see it as well. So it's hugely motivating, and given the schedule, that provided a lot of energy to get us over the line. It's not often you get a second chance at something, so to apply it to something that is has so much anticipation, and there are so many fans out there looking forward to this stuff, that it's super exciting to work on.
Yeah, it's cool to see that groundswell of public support for the idea actually develop into Zach getting the chance to actually return to his original vision and actually get to make that excitement from Zach and DJ, like that. Yes, we're actually going to get to do this and actually, make the movie we wanted to make. We always wanted to make. That enthusiasm and excitement was infectious for us as well. So it made it a real buzz to be working on this.